So, hello, and this is another mukbang for inspired content where I'll be trying a variety of grocery store Indian food, specifically microwave dinner Indian food. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different meals here, so that's a lot of food. I think I'm probably going to start with the everyday dal, green garbanzos, corn, and coriander. Um, yeah, notice right away, like the packaging has that picture of it. The actual bowl is decidedly less thick. Let's see, very soupy. So yeah, I don't know if they put some kind of big rice cake in the bottom of it to soak up some of the water and rise up the chunky bits, but yeah, that's a thing. All right. I don't think I've ever had green garbanzos. That's interesting. I would assume it's the coriander that gives it a very herbal quality. Yeah, water, split pigeon peas, onion, green garbanzo, tomato and juice, sweet corn, sunflower oil, tomato paste, coriander, sea salt, red jalapeno pepper, tamarind paste. I gotta look that up. Cumin, turmeric, cayenne, black pepper, and fenugreek. Now, I know that some of this is not the way this is eaten traditionally back in India, or like I said during the other taste test mukbangs, I guess I'll call them. This is what I guess American food companies create for Americans that they sell as the food of the region. So most of the Hispanic food probably wasn't what's eaten in Hispanic countries. Most of the Korean food probably wasn't traditional Korean food. I'm sure the Italians don't regularly eat the Italian food that we eat. But it's interesting to see the interpretations that are made and sold in the US, and then potentially at some point try to make the real thing or some of my favorites from these taste tests. This is kind of interesting. I don't know how to describe the taste. I mean, it's very similar to a vegetable soup and rice kind of flavor. But it's like a bean soup. I don't know. The herbs and spices that they use on this change it enough to give it a. There's almost a little lemony smell, a lemony taste to it, with like a hint of chili. like an American style chili dish, not just the chili powder. It is very drippy. I was expecting something a little thicker. I feel like I need a bib. It just keeps dripping. Now, is this supposed to be like a soup? Now, I am recording this and posting it later, so it will be in the archives, but I would like some comments, people describing what they... I feel like, yeah, I should fully expect that some of you are going to be frustrated that that's not real Indian food, and I know that. I want you to tell me what the difference is and what you really think the right way to do something like this would be. Is it supposed to be this liquid? And if so, why is the packaging lying? Because this is very much like a vegan chili, watered down. It's not bad. I mean, I would call this less of a chili and more of a stew, maybe a soup. And I don't do a lot of soups, but as flavor profiles go, that's a decent soup. And a good appetizer for the rest of what we've got here. All right, so next, I think I'm going to do the next most liquid one, which I think was the pav bhaji, mashed vegetable curry. I don't know if this is appearing backwards for you guys or just me, but we'll give that a try. And I'm reusing a container from one of the previous taste tests that I washed out, so hopefully it shouldn't have any of the other flavors. This one is a little more of the texture I'm used to seeing and some of the stuff I've prepared back in food service at a university with a lot of Indian students making their own stuff in the back kitchen. It's a little thicker. I was going to say it looks sort of like a very thin refried bean, but it smells very different. What do we got here? Mashed fresh vegetables simmered in butter and lightly spiced. Okay, excuse me. That's interesting. There's something very familiar. Ooh, there, we got some heat on that. Yes. It says it's a medium on the heat on the front. Something very familiar about this. I'm trying to remember where I've had something like this before. Pav Bhaji is an authentic Indian recipe created by the master chefs of ITC hotels. Mashed, fresh vegetables simmered in butter and lightly spiced, creating a delicious mouthwatering dish. This gourmet delight is now available in ready-to-eat pack. Serve with bread. Nah. I'm sure with a flatbread or a, what is it, a paneer bread, I might get a more authentic. And if I make a batch fresh at some point, I might make some of that too. But what are the ingredients? Ingredients: potatoes, tomatoes, capsicum, green peas. Uh-oh, that might be tough. Butter, sunflower oil, cream, onions, water, garlic, salt, spices, ginger, and tomato paste. We'll see how that works. I think it's it's very similar to a chowder, but I think with the garlic, ginger, cream, and green peas in there, I think it changes it enough that it gives it a distinctive taste. And the jalapeno, or whatever they're using as a spice. What are they? Capsicum, whatever they call that. That's a spicy pepper, that's all I know. The seasoning for something like this could be nice to add to just about any dish and give it a different flavor. Whew. Yeah, the heat builds. It's a stacking heat. You get that first batch, and it's like, oh, that's just a little heat. But the next one raises the level a little bit more off the base of the last level, and then the next one and last one. I like this. So that's medium heat, huh? The dal bakhara, black gram lentil curry. Next has a milder heat. So, and then I have the Punjab eggplant, which is roast eggplant simmered in hearty tomato sauce. There's a lot of tomato sauce in this stuff. And then what is it? Palak paneer. And then a chicken tikka masala, which, if my memory serves me correctly, was invented in England, not in India. But when people talk about Indian food, that's one of the things that comes out. Maybe that's just down to the ignorance of people who don't know the real stuff. Oh, and my new favorite pastime when doing these is saturated fat, not much on the everyday dal. Ooh, yeah, everyday dal is 11%. The pav bhaji was, I'm sure I'm saying all these very wrong, and I am sorry. That one's 20% of the daily recommended value. So together here we have 31% of my daily recommended value of saturated fat. Oh, these aren't as bad with the sodium. That's 13% for this one, 24% for this one, which is a little higher. Carbohydrates is 6%, 3%. So that's not bad. This is actually much healthier food than some of the other ones that I've done. It's still very high in sodium, but that's to be expected with ready-to-eat microwave dinners, I guess. It's a consequence of that preservation of food for meals. Alrighty. Dal bakhara next, which would be this. And if you can see the bowl there, and that's So I'm taking it that dal has something to do with some form of bean. Oh, I should look at that. That's it's listed as mildly spicy, which if the other one was medium spicy or medium mild, it's 2 out of 5 on the other one. This one is 1 out of 5. Again, 25% of my daily recommended sodium. Saturated fat is 30%, so that's higher. The first one had not a lot. So total fat, yeah. So I'm getting, just out of these two, I'm getting 65% of my daily recommended saturated fat. 65 plus 3, so we'll get there. I'm sure we'll get there. Sodium, this one's 25%, 24%, 15%. So we'll probably encroach on my daily recommended value of sodium. Carbohydrate 13, carbohydrate 3 on the Bahi. That's interesting. And what are the ingredients on this one? It contains milk. Okay. Ooh. I have no idea what that is all about, but I like that. Water, very, very garlicky. Water, black bean, water, whole black gram lentils, tomato paste, cream, butter, garlic, salt, ginger, and red chili powder. So the red chili powder, the ginger, the garlic, the butter, lentils, and tomato paste. I mean, that all goes really nicely together. I like it. That works really, I like that. That's nice. It's very garlicky. It's very much like a really good quality garlic butter that you would put on breading and toast it, or on pasta. But instead, it's mixed in with lentils with tomato paste, cream, little ginger, and chili pepper. That's amazing. And I think that I don't know what the difference is between a black, what is it? Black gram lentils. I don't understand what that's about. Why are you still pinging me? I like this. This is good. Well, I mean, nutritionally, I think it's this amount as a meal for a day might be a little hard for me to feel satisfied with, but so it's a good source of 6% of your daily recommended value of calcium, 8% of your daily recommended value of iron. Not much else, it looks like. And this one has 2% of the calcium, 6% of the daily recommended iron. This one had, ooh, yeah, so this one had 2% of my daily recommended vitamin A and 8% of my vitamin C, 10 of my iron, and 4 for calcium. So that and I'm sure recommendation for some like serving suggestion with Indian bread or steamed rice. With bread, okay, this one says poured over steamed rice or quinoa and topped with yogurt and herbs. Or serve them as part of a meal with vegetables, chicken, fish, or anything. That doesn't sound real. That sounds more like somebody made a soup and decided to give it a unique flavor by using a flavor profile usually encountered in Indian food, but maybe not a traditional recipe for something from India. And then I guess we call that fusion. I don't know. I don't know why we have to give it a special name. I'm sure people in India don't just eat. I mean, I'm sure you've had French fries and macaroni and cheese. Had a burrito every now and then. I think we've reached a point as a global culture where we can share and enjoy each other's foods, not be solely held prisoner by our cultural traditional meals. All right, so that one didn't have a lot of heat, but it has a little heat to it. So let's go next to the vegan, gluten-free, non-GMO, medium spicy Indian Punjab eggplant by, what is it? What's the Tasty Bite? Rip the top off. Tasty Bite. Oh, good. 20% of my daily recommended sodium intake. Saturated fat's not too bad. There's no saturated fat in this, supposedly. 8% of my daily fat. Oh, that's the other thing I need to do. This one says one serving is 1/2 of a pack. So there are 2 servings in this. Carbohydrate is 4% of my daily recommended total carbohydrates. So 8% of my daily recommended. Servings, 2.5 out of this one. Okay, so now we're talking. 2.5. So these two here, they have, that's 6 servings here. 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so that's a thing. Who decided that half that little bowl of, wow. Okay, I think somebody needs to reevaluate how that stuff happens. It says Punjab eggplant. Is that what that is? No. Okay, so it says here cumin is the second most popular spice in the world, known for its nutty and smoky flavor. Cumin is a key ingredient in curry dishes. There is a distinctness that's very familiar in this. And I don't know how to describe the flavor of it. It has a very kind of there's like a oh geez, it's really hard to how do you describe that? So eggplant, tomato. Okay, so there is a like the tomato. Oh, so tomato, onions, pumpkins, sunflower oil, garlic, salt, yeast extract, cumin, coriander, chilies, ginger, and turmeric. So I'm thinking on this one, I'm getting a pumpkin, onion, garlic, maybe a slight bit of umami from the tomato and yeast. I don't know why everybody wants yeast in these things, but I can kind of find the pumpkin in there, yeah. But that's not the only thing in there. There's a, I mean, I guess it's tomato and eggplant. Like a cooked eggplant has a, with tomato sauce, has a kind of a fruity flavor to it. So that's just really just a tomato sauce with like pumpkin or squash in it, eggplant, a little extra garlic, cumin, coriander. It's the ginger, chilies, and turmeric that turn the flavor in a new direction. And I guess cumin gives it a different flavor profile. I guess I'd have to try some of these components by themselves to really get a sense of what they're adding to a dish. So some of these do remind me like of a chili. This one is missing more of the beaniness to it. But I can see adding this to some chicken. I'm sorry if that's, that misses the point of being vegan for some people. But for me, if I added like a ground meat and some beans to this, I feel like most people tasting it wouldn't notice an Indian quality to it. But there is something I gotta imagine it's like the turmeric and the ginger, maybe the coriander. I don't know about the cumin. I think there's probably cumin in like a regular chili mix. The eggplant might throw it off a little too. It's hard to say. But you can make a chili out of this at a chili festival and people wouldn't even really think it's out of place. And I do realize to a certain degree that curries and chilies are kind of the same thing. It's sort of like the name implies a group of foods that are generally a sauce on a vegetable, bean, or meat mix. It's a category somewhere between like a stew and a more solid dish. All right, that was pretty good. I like the flavor profile of that. I kind of almost missed the bean on that. And that one I would say probably would be good with some bread or crackers or something. Does it have a recommendation? Serve as is with tasty bites, rice, or with flatbread. Yeah. So I take it you guys who eat Indian food on a regular basis eat a lot of flatbreads. So, okay, next we're going for, I guess we'll go with this one. This is the Indian palak paneer. And this is more like most of the microwave food I've seen. Oh, pretty much all of these to this point have been a pouch of some kind. The first two were, well, the green garbanzo one was rip the pouch open, put the pouch in the microwave, and heat it. And it's cooked inside its pouch. But the ones in containers like this come with a says specially sterilized and multi-layer pouches to help assure safety. Do not require refrigeration. So those were squeezed into a bowl and nuke the bowl. But that's not attractive. These guys were rip the pouch open and pop them in the microwave. But all four of the first four were roughly cooked for a minute to 90 seconds. And take out, and you're pretty much good to go. The rest of these, the last two I think I have here, the palak paneer, is that what it is? Palak paneer and chicken tikka masala with basmati rice were both in these trays. This one was a cardboard tray, and tikka masala is in one of those plastic trays. They're nuke for 4 minutes, and then the tikka masala was stir, nuke for another minute and a half, pull out, and let sit for a while. And so they substantially longer cook times for those. Oh, what is palak paneer? There are little chunks in there. What is that supposed to? Is that supposed to be like a cream spinach with cheese with rice and rajma dal, which I imagine is the beans on the side here, if I'm recognizing beans. Made with organic spinach, rice, and beans. Yeah. Okay. So these are little pieces of cheese. I did not know they were in there. Interesting. Again, tastes mildly familiar. I don't think I've ever really had Indian food, but some of this tastes very familiar. I'm not sure what to make of the cheese. It's sort of like a Swiss cheese. Or a provolone. It's not a overtly amazing cheese. You know, I think this spinach reminds me a little bit of a pesto. When I'm mixing the rice into it, it's looking more and more. It has a lot of that herbal oil flavor. I'm sure it's very healthy for you, but creamed spinach is not a thing I'm a huge fan of. Okay, vitamin A, 10% of your daily recommended value. Vitamin C, 20%. Calcium, 15%. Iron, 15%. 17% of your daily recommended fat. 28% of my daily recommended sodium. 38 of my, or 13% of my daily recommended carbohydrates. One meal, one serving. That I appreciate. I appreciate that a lot. None of this silly stuff where a cup and a half of whatever you're making ends up being 2 meals. What is that about? Come on. Who stops at a cup and a half of chili or whatever, or curry? Well, I imagine if you have a flatbread, that's probably enough. I don't know. Well, a cup and a half. No, I think it's more like a quarter cup would be half of some of these. Maybe a third cup would be half of some of these portion sizes that they're equating to. I'd have to have measured them, and I wish I had noticed that earlier so I could give an approximation, but wow. I mean, some of that's just absurd. I get it. I'm a big guy. I have a size height situation which isn't what most people eat to. I've got a body mass of I'm actually pretty healthy fitness wise. I'm not an overweight individual by any stretch. But, ooh, another piece of that cheese, which I'm sure probably won't agree with me later. All right, so but I also think on this one, on the score of this one, we already have the rice included in the meal, where the others were suggesting you add rice or flatbread. Okay, can I mix the beans in with the spinach and the rice? Because I gotta admit, the creamed spinach is. I don't mind spinach, like a spinach in a salad, like a spinach heavy salad. Honestly, I would prefer a spinach heavy salad. But creamed spinach by itself is, whew, it's not a favorite flavor profile of mine. It needs mixing in with other things. Well, it doesn't need to be. I'm sure I could just sit down to a whole bowl of spinach if I'm hungry enough. But apparently, I'm 6 meals into a stack of things here, and cream spinach is not high on my hunger desire list. I am hitting the edge of what I can sustainably eat. So this isn't vegan. Using well, most of this isn't vegan. A lot of them use milk, right? Milks, butters, and cheeses. I wonder if, I mean, I'm sure there's a way to make that relatively easily vegan. I'm clearly not vegan and it doesn't bother me, but for some reason that's on my mind right now. Because some of these are so close. I mean, it's just like rice, vegetables, beans, and herbs and spices. But oftentimes you throw in a dairy product for carrying it further. I don't know that I've noticed anything about eggs. And if it's not eggs or dairy and it comes from an animal, it's called meat. There's meat on fish. I don't believe in calling them separate categories. I find that kind of silly. If it's got bones and it's got skin and you remove some of its flesh to eat it, you're eating its meat. I don't know how many times I've had a conversation with somebody and said, I need a little meat with my meal. And they say, like, could you do fish instead? Like, fish is meat. It's fish meat. Chicken is meat. Duck is meat. Lizard is meat. Clams are meat. What is that? That is a half rehydrated piece of freeze-dried rice. Fascinating. It looks a little bit more like a booger from an eraser. Eraser boogers are not food. Alrighty. That brings us to chicken tikka masala. Like I said, I'm pretty sure this is not an actual Indian food, but this is one of those things that comes up when talking about Indian food. Sodium, 30% of my daily recommended value of sodium. This is not a healthy diet way to go, guys. Getting a boatload of sodium here. And I'm doing this pretty regularly for this year so far. My blood pressure must have been raised way higher than it's been in a long time. Not that I've had an issue with blood pressure, but once a week doing 2 times the daily recommended value of sodium is probably not healthy. 14% of the carbohydrates, 12% of my daily recommended value of fat, one meal, one serving. At least those two have it right. I don't know what the deal with these guys was. I don't know whose bright idea was to make these packets 2 servings. Basmati rice. No antibiotics ever. So, chicken tikka masala with basmati rice, roasted white meat chicken, simmered with tandoori spices, and a robust creamy tomato sauce. Oh, well, okay, there. I was going to say, and it says it's medium spicy. I don't know that I buy that yet. But I was going to say it's not too different from a very thin, light marinara sauce on chicken and rice. But the spices are distinctly different. They give a different flavor profile. A more floral, perfumey spice. Not really floral. I don't know what to call that. A very sandalwoody, dry, not really smoky, but kind of smoky. But it does change the flavor profile of the dish. I'm kind of curious because I am aware of okay, so tomatoes, ginger, cumin, turmeric, and coriander seeds. It tells you that on the side, which I kind of like. They give you a little bit of that information on the side. Okay, basmati rice, water, boneless white meat, chicken, onion, tomato. Oh, excuse me, tomato paste, low-fat yogurt, huh. Expeller pressed sunflower oil. Contains 2% or less of cream, garlic, ginger, sea salt, cumin, cane sugar, rice starch, paprika, coriander seeds, native cornstarch, spices. Oh, good. Wonderfully vague. Turmeric, fenugreek. Now, I'm thinking part of what I'm tasting in there is definitely there's cumin and fenugreek is this. There's a distinctness to it in here, I think. You can kind of catch it, but you have to know to look for it. Now, I have vaguely allergy-like symptoms to certain vegetables. They may be affecting some of my ability to pick up some of the fragrance and flavor, but I do kind of like this flavoring. So somewhere in this batch of stuff, I bet you the peas in one of these is doing it to me. And sometimes carrots. So it's not as bad as it was for the Thai food where I ended up feeling like I had a cold all night long. Carrots do that to me. I don't know why. Yeah, this is nice. Now, it does say on here, explore the dish crowned by the British as their national dish. So, I guess technically this is British food and not Indian food. The origins of this triumph of Indian cuisine remains a mystery. To some, its history stretches back 5,000 years to first use of tandoor, an Indian clay oven. First use of the tandoor, the Indian clay oven. To others, it's a modern invention created by the British. Whoever is right, our chicken tikka masala is your journey to better culinary experiences on the saffron road. I kind of like the the model of a story with your meal. I kind of like that. Maybe I should do a little more of that here instead of analyzing the food as I taste it. Nah. What would be the point of that? That would be somebody who's good at doing this. I'm just a dabbler. And I want you to do better than I do because I don't want this career. This is hard. I don't know if you've ever done this, but eating 5 or 6 meals in a sitting, or in this case where half of them are half a meal. Are you kidding me? So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11. This is 11 servings of food. Ooh. Body's not really meant to do that. I mean, this will probably be my one meal today. And we are approaching an hour. Ooh, I am feeling very full. But this one I could make more of. The soup was okay. The eggplant thing I think is probably pretty good. I would put some beans or something into it. The dal bakara I would definitely do again. I think of all these meals, I think I probably would definitely go with these two again. The dal bakara, that. Maybe the eggplant. So by the end of all this week of these videos, I will probably have 7 times 2, 14 different dishes that I'd like to learn how to make. With an additional maybe 4 or 5. That would be fun to occasionally do. It's a pretty expanded recipe option. How did I phrase it? A pretty expanded recipe repertoire. I do feel like some of these seasonings on these Indian foods are things that I ate when I was first having digestive issues with my chronic health concern. It was a way to change up my food, find things that I could tolerate maybe a little bit better. I didn't know it worked, but they taste very familiar. I feel like I ate some of this stuff for a few weeks at one point. I just can't remember when. I mean, to the best of my knowledge, this is my first real exposure to Indian food. But it all tastes very familiar. That was all right. I think that's the three I would potentially go with. Alrighty, well, ooh, little full. Thanks for joining me for this one, and I will see you again probably for. I think I've got 2 more to go. I'm still deciding what I want to do. I think I kind of want to do. It feels like cheating. I kind of want to do an American breakfast. So like pancakes, waffles, French toast, eggs, sausage, bacon. But let's be real. Most of those are things that exist in other cultures that we have absorbed as Americans. And most Americans these days eat a bagel or a bowl of cereal. They don't sit down to a full breakfast anymore. But those are still some of my favorite classics. But it's also possible that I could do an American meal style where I would do like burgers, fries, onion rings, Philly cheesesteak, corn dogs, and that kind of thing. So I have to figure out what I'm doing for the last two. I also thought about doing like a fondue because that would be fun to do live, but I will figure it out. Until then, I will see you in a week. Or, well, for me, a week. Because these are being recorded and uploaded at that rate. I can't do this every day. I don't feel good right now. It's my own fault. But I guess you'll see the next video tomorrow, whatever I decide to do with it. Take care of yourselves.